The chandelier lights were blinding. 3,000 people filled the Charleston Grand Ballroom, their silence more deafening than any scream. The cameras were rolling, broadcasting live to every screen across South Carolina and beyond. And there, in the center of the polished marble floor, stood Emma Rodriguez, 23 years old, wearing a powder blue dress her mother had saved for 6 months to buy, her hand still extended toward the crowd, her smile trembling at the edges. No one moved. Marcus Whitfield stood frozen in the VIP balcony, his champagne glass halfway to his lips, watching the scene unfold below like a car crash in slow motion. His heart pounded against his ribs so hard he thought everyone around him could hear it. The entire elite of Charleston society, the mayors, the senators, the old money families who had built this city on cotton and pride, all of them turned their heads away from that girl as if she were invisible, and Marcus knew, in that terrible crystalline moment, that what he did next would define the rest of his life. Mr. Whitfield. The voice belonged to Gerald Chen, his chief financial advisor, who had appeared at his elbow like a ghost. The Vandermeer Group is watching. They are watching very carefully. You understand what I am saying, yes? Marcus did understand. The Vandermeer Group, the investment consortium from New York that held the keys to the 3 historic hotels he had been negotiating to purchase for 2 years. $340 million. The deal that would cement the Whitfield name not just in Charleston, but across the entire eastern seaboard. Thomas Vandermeer himself sat 4 tables away, his steel-gray eyes fixed on Marcus with the intensity of a man who measured worth in quarterly returns and social capital. "She is still standing there," Gerald whispered urgently. "Someone from the charity will help her. You do not need to get involved. Think about what this could mean." But Marcus could not think about anything except the way Emma's shoulders had begun to shake. She was trying so hard to keep smiling. Her mother sat at a side table, her face buried in her hands, and Marcus watched as 2 society women leaned together and whispered behind their programs, their expressions twisted with something between pity and disgust. The master of ceremonies, a television personality named Brandon Ashford, who hosted the most watched morning show in the Carolinas, stood at his podium with his microphone dead in his hand. He looked at the producers in the wings, he looked at the cameras, he looked at Emma, and he did absolutely nothing. 45 seconds had passed since Emma had been guided to the dance floor by the event coordinator, a well-meaning woman named Patricia, who had thought surely in a room full of Charleston's finest citizens, someone would dance with the special guest, the girl who had volunteered at the Children's Hospital for 5 years, the girl whose story of spreading joy to sick kids had been featured in the Post and Courier, the girl who had been personally promised by the Magnolia Charity Foundation, that tonight would be the most magical night of her life. But no one danced with girls like Emma in rooms like this. Marcus felt his hand tighten around his glass until his knuckles went white. Memories crashed through him unbidden, his father's voice. "The Whitfields do not associate with people who make us look weak, Marcus. We are lions. Lions do not concern themselves with the opinions of sheep." He was 8 years old again, being pulled away from a birthday party because the host family's youngest son was, as his father put it, mentally deficient. He remembered crying in the car. He remembered his father's hand striking his cheek. "Never let me see you show weakness again." 60 seconds now. The orchestra sat silent. A photographer from the Charleston magazine lowered his camera, unable to bear capturing this moment. In the back of the ballroom, someone coughed. It sounded like a gunshot. Marcus looked down at Emma again. She had lowered her hand. Her smile was gone. She stood there in her beautiful blue dress, utterly alone, and Marcus saw her lips move as she whispered something. He could not hear it from where he stood, but somehow he knew what she was saying. "I am sorry, I am so sorry." And something inside Marcus Whitfield, something that had been buried for 47 years beneath layers of ambition and fear and carefully constructed armor, finally cracked wide open. "Excuse me," he said to Gerald, and before his advisor could respond, before Thomas Vandermeer could lean forward with that calculating expression, before his own mind could talk him out of it, Marcus Whitfield set down his champagne glass and walked toward the balcony stairs. Every head in the ballroom turned as he descended. His footsteps echoed on the marble like a countdown. He heard whispers rising like a tide. He felt 3,000 pairs of eyes drilling into his back, his shoulders, his face. He saw Thomas Vandermeer stand from his table. He saw Gerald's face go pale. He saw Brandon Ashford suddenly lift his microphone as if waking from a trance. And he saw Emma look up. her brown eyes wide and glistening with tears, as Marcus Whitfield, the most powerful man in Charleston, the man who owned half the waterfront and whose name appeared on buildings across 3 states, walked straight toward her with his hand extended. But that was not how this story began. This story began 3 months earlier, on a Tuesday morning in June, when Marcus Whitfield still believed he was in control of his own destiny. Marcus Whitfield woke every morning at 5:15. Not 5, not 5:30, 5:15 exactly, because that was when the light through his bedroom window hit the precise angle that illuminated the oil painting of his grandfather on the opposite wall. Theodore Whitfield, founder of the Whitfield Hotel Group in 1928, stared down from the canvas with eyes that seemed to judge every decision Marcus would make that day. His penthouse suite occupied the entire top floor of the Whitfield Grand Charleston, the flagship property his grandfather had built when Charleston was still rebuilding from the Depression. From his bedroom window, Marcus could see the harbor, the historic district, and on clear mornings like this one, the thin line where the Atlantic Ocean met the sky. He owned this view. He had earned this view. By 5:45, he was in his private gym, running 6 miles on the treadmill while reviewing financial reports on the mounted screen. The Vandermeer deal was progressing exactly as planned. 3 hotels, the Beaufort Arms in Savannah, the Magnolia Court in Richmond, and the Azalea Grand in Charlotte. Once they were part of the Whitfield portfolio, his company would control every major luxury property from Charleston to Washington. His father would have been proud. His grandfather would have expected nothing less. By 7:30, Marcus was showered, dressed in a Tom Ford suit the color of charcoal, and seated at his private breakfast table where his assistant, Caroline, had already laid out the Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, and a leather folder containing his schedule. Caroline had worked for him for 12 years and knew better than to speak before he finished his espresso. "The Charleston Business Council meeting is at 9, she said when he finally looked up. "Lunch with Senator Michaels at 12:30, the Magnolia Charity Foundation Gala Planning Committee at 3, and you have a call with Thomas Vandermeer at 4, which he requested personally." Marcus nodded. "What does Vandermeer want?" He did not say, but his assistant emphasized it was urgent. Caroline paused. "Also, Patricia Holbrook from the Magnolia Foundation called again. She wants to confirm you will attend the gala. She said it is very important that you are there, given your family's history with the organization." Marcus sighed. The Magnolia Charity Foundation annual gala was Charleston's social event of the year, a glittering spectacle where old money and new money mingled under the pretense of helping the less fortunate. His grandfather had been a founding member. His father had chaired the board for 20 years. Marcus was expected to appear, write a check, shake hands, and disappear before the actual charity work began. "Tell Patricia I will be there," he said. 1 hour, no speeches. She mentioned they are doing something special this year, a tribute to community volunteers. She wants you to present an award to one of the honorees. "Absolutely not. I donate money. I do not do awards ceremonies." Caroline made a note and withdrew. Marcus returned to his Wall Street Journal, but found himself unable to concentrate. Something about Patricia's request bothered him, though he could not articulate why. The Magnolia Foundation had always been about appearances. Rich people in expensive clothes pretending to care about poor people they would never actually meet. It was the social contract of Southern high society. You showed up, you smiled, you wrote the check, and everyone agreed you were a good person. His phone buzzed. A text from his younger sister, Victoria, who lived in Atlanta and called him exactly twice a year, on his birthday and Christmas. The message was short. "Saw the announcement about the Vandermeer deal. Congratulations. Dad would have hated that you were bigger than he ever was." Marcus stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. Victoria had always been the rebellious one, the one who refused to join the family business, the one who married a public school teacher and moved away from Charleston's suffocating social hierarchy. She had not spoken to their father for 5 years before he died. Marcus had not forgiven her for that, even though part of him understood why she left. Their father, Jonathan Whitfield, had been a titan of Charleston society, brilliant, ruthless, and utterly devoid of warmth. He had raised Marcus and Victoria like soldiers training for war. Every meal was a lesson in business strategy. Every family gathering was an opportunity to network. Love was a weakness. Compassion was a liability. The only thing that mattered was the name Whitfield and the empire it represented. Marcus had absorbed those lessons like gospel. He built his life according to his father's principles. He married the right woman, Constance Beaufort, whose family traced their lineage to the original Charleston settlers. The marriage lasted 6 years before she left him, claiming she had married a statue, not a man. He let her go without a fight. Divorce was cleaner than pretending. He never remarried, he never had children. He told himself it was because he was too focused on business, but the truth was simpler and more terrible. He did not know how to love anyone. His father had beaten that capacity out of him, one cold lesson at a time. At 9 o'clock, Marcus arrived at the Charleston Business Council meeting in the historic district, where 24 men and 3 women who controlled the economic future of the Lowcountry discussed infrastructure, tax incentives, and the upcoming mayoral election. Marcus spoke twice, both times to shut down proposals he considered wasteful. By 10:30 he was back in his car, being driven to his office in the Whitfield building on Broad Street. His phone rang. Thomas Vandermeer. "Mr. Whitfield," came the clipped New York accent. "I hope you are having a productive morning." "Always," Marcus replied. "What can I do for you, Thomas?" "I wanted to discuss the gala next month. I understand you will be attending." Marcus frowned. "I plan to make an appearance, yes." "Good. My partners and I will be there as well. We believe it is important to see how you operate in your natural environment, so to speak, how you engage with your community, the people you surround yourself with." There was a pause, weighted with meaning. "Public image is crucial in our line of work, Marcus. We invest in people as much as properties." Marcus felt a cold knot form in his stomach. "I am not sure I follow. Let me be direct. The Vandermeer Group does extensive research on our partners. We look at everything: business practices, personal relationships, public perception. We need to know that the people we align with share our values of excellence, discretion, and appropriate social conduct." "Appropriate social conduct," Marcus repeated slowly. "You have built a remarkable reputation, Marcus. You are known as a man who does not involve himself in controversies, who does not make waves, who understands that business is business and sentiment is a distraction. That is exactly the kind of partner we seek." Another pause. "I trust that reputation is accurate." The message was clear. "Stay in your lane. Do not do anything unpredictable. Do not embarrass us." "You can trust that my focus is on building this company," Marcus said carefully. "Nothing more." "Excellent. Then we will see you at the gala. I look forward to finalizing our agreement shortly after." The call ended. Marcus stared at his phone, that cold knot tightening. He had spent his entire life building the reputation Thomas Vandermeer described. A man of control, a man without weakness, a man who did not let emotions interfere with success. It had cost him everything except money. The rest of June passed in a blur of meetings, negotiations, and carefully orchestrated public appearances. Marcus attended a ribbon cutting for a new wing at the Medical University, donated $50,000 to the Historic Preservation Society, and hosted a dinner for the Charleston Symphony Board. Everyone who mattered saw Marcus Whitfield exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what was expected. But something had shifted. Marcus found himself distracted in ways he could not explain. He would be reviewing contracts and suddenly remember Victoria's text. He would be at a business dinner and notice the way people laughed at jokes that were not funny because the person telling them had power. He began to see the world around him as a performance, and he was the lead actor in a play he no longer believed in. On the evening of July 15th, Marcus attended a fundraiser for the Children's Hospital. It was another obligation, another check to write, another room full of people who wanted something from him. He arrived late and planned to leave early, but as he moved through the crowd, he passed a hallway where photographs lined the walls. Photos of sick children, photos of volunteers who visited them, photos of small moments of joy in a place designed for suffering. One photograph stopped him cold. It showed a young woman with Down syndrome wearing a volunteer badge, sitting beside a little boy who could not have been more than 6 years old. The boy was bald from chemotherapy, connected to an IV pole, but he was laughing. The young woman was laughing too, her face lit up with pure, uncomplicated joy. The caption read, "Emma Rodriguez, Volunteer of the Year, brings light to our darkest days." Marcus stared at that photograph for a long time. There was something about the girl's expression, no calculation, no pretense, no performance. Just genuine happiness at making a sick child smile. He thought about his own face in the mirror that morning. When was the last time he had smiled like that? When was the last time he had felt anything real? "Beautiful, is it not?" A voice beside him. Patricia Holbrook, from the Magnolia Foundation, appeared with a glass of wine and a knowing smile. Emma has been volunteering here for 5 years, every Saturday without fail. The children adore her. She has Down syndrome, Marcus said, and immediately regretted how clinical it sounded. She does, Patricia replied, her tone cooling slightly. She also has more compassion in her smallest finger than most people have in their entire bodies. We have chosen her as one of our honorees at the gala. She represents everything the Magnolia Foundation stands for: kindness, service, humanity. Marcus nodded, still looking at the photograph. That is admirable. Patricia studied him for a moment. You know, Marcus, your grandfather started the Magnolia Foundation because he believed the measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. He used to say that true strength is protecting those who cannot protect themselves. She paused. I wonder if he would be proud of what we have become. The words landed like a slap. Patricia smiled, excused herself, and disappeared into the crowd, leaving Marcus alone with the photograph and the uncomfortable feeling that he was standing on the edge of something vast and terrifying. But he pushed the feeling down, as he always did. He wrote a check for $75,000. He shook the appropriate hands. He left before dessert, and he told himself that nothing had changed. But something had. The weeks leading up to the gala were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Marcus threw himself into work with an intensity that bordered on obsessive. The Vandermeer deal was entering its final stages, requiring conference calls at midnight and flights to New York and Richmond every week. Gerald Chen warned him that he was pushing too hard, that exhaustion led to mistakes, but Marcus could not afford to slow down. If he slowed down, he might have to think about things he did not want to think about, like Emma Rodriguez. He could not get that photograph out of his head. It haunted him during board meetings. It appeared in his dreams. He found himself wondering what it must be like to care about something so deeply that you showed up every single week for 5 years, expecting nothing in return except the chance to make someone smile. It was so foreign to him that it might as well have been a description of life on Mars. You are distracted, Thomas Vandermeer observed during a video conference in late August. Is everything all right? Everything is fine, Marcus replied, forcing his attention back to the spreadsheet on his screen. I am simply ensuring every detail is perfect. Good. Because we are almost at the finish line, Marcus. The gala is in 3 weeks. After that, we sign. And after we sign, you become one of the most influential hoteliers on the East Coast. Thomas leaned forward, his face filling the screen. Do not let anything derail this. Not at the last moment. The warning was clear. Marcus nodded and ended the call. But as soon as the screen went dark, that photograph of Emma flashed through his mind again. The way she looked at that sick child, the absolute absence of self-interest. He thought about calling Victoria. She would understand this strange feeling. She had always been better at emotions than he was. But he had not spoken to his sister in 4 months, and he was not sure what he would even say. That he was having doubts about a life he had spent 47 years building. That he looked at a girl with Down syndrome and felt something that might be envy. Instead, he called his therapist. Dr. Helen Winters had been treating Charleston's elite for 30 years and knew better than to judge. Marcus had been seeing her twice a month for the past 6 years, ever since his divorce, though he still was not entirely sure why he kept going. He spent most sessions talking about business. Helen spent most sessions looking at him like she was waiting for him to say something real. I am having some unusual thoughts, he admitted during their session the first week of September. Outside her office window, the late summer heat made the air shimmer. About the gala, about this girl they are honoring. Emma Rodriguez, Helen said. She knew everything that happened in Charleston. The volunteer with Down syndrome. Yes, I saw her photograph at the hospital fundraiser, and I cannot stop thinking about it. About her. About what kind of person does what she does. What kind of person do you think does what she does? Marcus leaned back in the leather chair and stared at the ceiling. Someone who is not afraid. Someone who does not care what other people think. Someone who loves without calculating the cost. Do you want to be that kind of person? The question landed like a punch. Marcus sat forward, his hands clasped tightly together. I do not know how to be that kind of person. I was not raised to be that kind of person. You were not raised to be a lot of things, Marcus, but you are not your father anymore. You have not been for a long time, have I not? Marcus heard the bitterness in his own voice. Every decision I make is based on what he taught me. Power, control, appearances. I have built an empire on his principles. And are you happy? Silence filled the room. Helen did not push. She simply waited, as she always did, for Marcus to find his own answer. "I am successful," he finally said. "That is not what I asked." Marcus stood abruptly and walked to the window. Below, people moved through their lives, ordinary people with ordinary problems. He used to look at them and feel superior. Now he just felt distant, like he was watching life through bulletproof glass. "I will attend the gala," he said quietly. "I will do what is expected, and then I will sign the Vandermeer deal and move forward. That is what I do, that is who I am." "Who you are," Helen repeated. "Or who your father told you to be." Marcus did not answer. He left her office 10 minutes later with that question echoing in his skull. The next 2 weeks were a countdown. Gerald grew increasingly nervous as the gala approached, constantly reminding Marcus that the Vandermeer group would be watching everything. How he dressed, who he talked to, how long he stayed. Every moment was a test. "They are looking for any excuse to walk away," Gerald warned during a strategy meeting. "The competition is fierce. There are 3 other hotel groups that would kill for this opportunity. We cannot afford even the slightest misstep." "I understand," Marcus said. "I will be the perfect image of Whitfield excellence. I always am." But privately, Marcus felt something building inside him. A pressure, a tension, like a storm gathering on the horizon. He tried to ignore it. He doubled down on work. He attended every social obligation with mechanical precision. He smiled when he was supposed to smile. He laughed when he was supposed to laugh. And every night, he dreamed about that photograph. 5 days before the gala, Patricia Holbrook called him directly. "Marcus, I need to talk to you about Emma." His heart jumped, though he could not explain why. "What about her?" "She is very nervous about the gala. It is her first time attending such a large formal event. Her mother is worried that Emma might be overwhelmed by all the attention. I am calling our major donors to ask them to be particularly welcoming to her, to make sure she feels included." "I am sure she will be fine," Marcus said automatically. "You have excellent event staff." "I am not asking the event staff, Marcus. I am asking you. You are the most prominent person at the gala. If you welcome Emma, everyone else will follow your lead. If you ignore her, so will everyone else." The words hit harder than Patricia probably intended. Marcus found himself gripping his phone tightly. "Patricia, I am attending the gala to support the foundation. I am not a social coordinator." "No, you are not. You are the grandson of the man who founded this organization to help people like Emma. I thought you might want to honor his legacy." Her voice was gentle, but firm. "I am not asking you to change who you are, Marcus. I am just asking you to see her. That is all, just see her." She hung up before he could respond. Marcus sat in his office as the afternoon light faded, staring at nothing. Just see her. Such a simple request, and yet it felt impossibly complicated. That evening he did something he had not done in years. He called Victoria. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice surprised. "Marcus, is everything okay?" "You never call." "I am fine," he said quickly. "I just wanted to talk." "About what? The business?" "Because I still have no interest in joining the family empire." "No, not about business. About something else." He paused, unsure how to continue. "Do you remember when we were kids and Father took us to the Hayes' Christmas party? And there was a boy there who had special needs and Father made us leave." Silence on the other end. Then quietly, "I remember. You cried in the car. Father hit me. He said crying was weak. I remember that too." Victoria's voice was soft now. "Why are you bringing this up? There is a gala next week. They are honoring a young woman with Down syndrome, a volunteer. And I keep thinking about that Christmas party, about that boy, about how Father looked at him like he was something disgusting." "And you are wondering if you look at people the same way," Victoria said. It was not a question. "I do not know what I am wondering," Marcus admitted. "I just know something feels wrong. Like I have been walking in the wrong direction my entire life, and I am only just now noticing." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. "Marcus, do you know why I left Charleston? Because you did not want to be part of the family business." "No, I left because I could not watch you turn into Father. I could not watch him destroy the person you used to be before he taught you that loving someone was a weakness." Her voice cracked. "You were kind once, Marcus. You cried when you saw that boy because you knew it was wrong to treat him that way. And Father beat that kindness out of you, and I watched it happen, and I was too young to stop it." Marcus felt something break inside his chest. "I do not know how to get it back, Victoria. I do not know if it is even still there." "Then maybe it is time to find out." She paused. "What are you afraid of?" "Everything," Marcus thought. losing the deal, losing the respect he had spent a lifetime earning, losing the armor that kept him safe from ever being hurt again. But most of all, he was afraid of looking at Emma Rodriguez and seeing everything he had sacrificed to become the man his father wanted. "I am afraid it is too late," he whispered. "It is never too late, Marcus. Not until you are dead. And you are not dead. You are just asleep. Maybe it is time to wake up." They talked for another hour, longer than they had spoken in a decade. When Marcus finally hung up, he felt raw and exhausted, like he had run a marathon through his own memories. But he also felt something else, something fragile and terrifying: hope. The night before the gala, Marcus could not sleep. He stood on his balcony at 3 in the morning, looking out at the harbor. Somewhere in this city, Emma Rodriguez was probably sleeping, unaware that she had become the center of a war inside a man she had never met. Unaware that her simple act of showing up to volunteer every week had cracked open something in him that he thought was sealed forever. He thought about his grandfather, Theodore Whitfield, the man in the painting who watched him every morning, the man who built this empire but also founded a charity to help vulnerable people. Had Theodore struggled with this same conflict? Had he stood on a balcony like this and wondered who he really was beneath the expensive suits and the family name? Marcus closed his eyes and made a decision. He did not know if it was the right decision. He did not know what it would cost him, but he knew he could not walk into that gala tomorrow and pretend nothing had changed, because everything had changed. He just did not know it yet. The Charleston Grand Ballroom was transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers hung from the vaulted ceiling like frozen waterfalls, casting diamond light across the marble floors. Round tables dressed in ivory and gold filled the space, each centerpiece a cascading arrangement of magnolias and roses. A string orchestra played softly from the stage, their music weaving through the murmur of 3,000 voices. Marcus arrived at 7 o'clock, precisely on time, wearing a midnight blue tuxedo that his tailor had delivered that morning. Caroline had reviewed every detail of the evening with him twice. Arrive, greet the key donors, sit at the head table, stay exactly 60 minutes, write the check, leave before the actual program ends. Simple, clean, controlled. But as Marcus stepped into the ballroom, he felt anything but controlled. His heart was racing, his palms were damp. He scanned the room automatically, identifying the players. Thomas Vandermeer and his partners occupied a prime table near the stage, already deep in conversation with Senator Michaels. Patricia Holbrook moved through the crowd like a conductor, ensuring every detail was perfect. The mayor, the Historic Society president, the television crews setting up for the live broadcast, and then he saw her. Emma Rodriguez sat at a table near the edge of the ballroom, wearing that powder blue dress her mother had saved for. She looked small and nervous, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes wide as she took in the spectacle around her. Her mother sat beside her, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and a proud smile, gently touching Emma's arm and whispering encouragement. Marcus found himself staring. Emma's face held an openness that seemed impossible in a room full of people who had spent their entire lives learning to hide what they felt. She looked at the chandeliers with wonder. She smiled at the orchestra with delight. And when a waiter offered her water, she thanked him with such genuine warmth that the young man actually blushed. Mr. Whitfield, Gerald Chen, appeared at his elbow, his expression tense. "The Vandermeer table is watching. You should go greet them." Marcus tore his eyes away from Emma and followed Gerald toward the power center of the room. Thomas Vandermeer stood as he approached, extending his hand with practiced precision. "Marcus, excellent turnout. Patricia has done a remarkable job with the event." "She always does," Marcus replied, shaking hands with Thomas and his 3 partners. All of them wore identical expressions of calculated interest. All of them were evaluating him, measuring him, determining if he met their standards. "We were just discussing the program," Thomas continued. "I understand they are honoring several community volunteers tonight. Quite touching." His tone suggested it was anything but touching. "Of course, we are here for the networking opportunities. I have already identified 3 potential investors for future projects." The other partners laughed. Marcus forced himself to smile. This was the game. This was how it worked. You showed up to charity events and pretended to care about charity while actually conducting business. Everyone understood the rules. Everyone played their part. "I see you are seated at our table," Thomas said, gesturing to the place card with Marcus's name. Right between Thomas and Senator Michaels, the power seat. the one reserved for people who mattered. "We have much to discuss." Marcus nodded and took his seat. From this angle he could not see Emma anymore, but he knew exactly where she was. Table 17, near the edge, near the exit, near the place where people put guests they were obligated to invite but hoped would not be noticed. The program began at 7:30. Patricia took the stage, radiant in a silver gown, and welcomed everyone to the 58th Annual Magnolia Foundation Gala. She spoke about the Foundation's history, about Theodore Whitfield's vision, about the importance of compassion and community service. The audience applauded at the appropriate moments. The cameras captured every angle. "Tonight," Patricia continued, "we honor 5 extraordinary individuals who embody the true spirit of the Magnolia Foundation, people who give their time, their energy and their hearts to making Charleston a more compassionate city." The first 4 honorees were exactly what Marcus expected. A retired teacher who tutored underprivileged students, a firefighter who organized youth programs, a nurse who volunteered at homeless shelters. Each one came to the stage, received their award, said a few words, and returned to their seats while the audience applauded and the cameras flashed. And then Patricia said Emma's name. "Our final honoree tonight is Emma Rodriguez, who has volunteered at Charleston Children's Hospital for 5 years. Emma has Down syndrome, and she has never let that define her or limit her ability to bring joy to others. She visits sick children every single Saturday. She reads to them. She plays games with them. She holds their hands when they are scared. The hospital staff call her their angel. The children call her their best friend. Emma Rodriguez represents everything we should aspire to be." The spotlight found Emma at table 17. She stood slowly, clearly nervous, her mother's hand supporting her elbow. The audience applauded, but Marcus heard the difference in the sound. It was polite, distant, the kind of applause you give when you are supposed to applaud but do not really feel it. Emma walked to the stage with small, careful steps. Patricia met her halfway, guiding her up the stairs and handing her the Crystal Award. Emma held it like it was made of glass, her face shining with pride and fear. "Thank you," she said into the microphone, her voice soft and slightly slurred in the way that was characteristic of Down syndrome. "I love the children at the hospital. They are my friends. I just want to make them happy." That was all she said. Simple, honest, true. The audience applauded again, and Emma walked carefully back to her seat, clutching her award like a treasure. Patricia returned to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Magnolia Foundation is honored to have live music tonight, courtesy of the Charleston Symphony, and we are thrilled to announce that our ballroom floor is open for dancing. We encourage everyone to celebrate these remarkable honorees and the spirit of community that brings us together." The orchestra shifted into a waltz. Couples began moving toward the dance floor. Society wives in designer gowns, men in tuxedos that cost more than most people's monthly rent. They filled the marble floor with practiced grace, twirling and laughing under the chandelier light. And then Marcus saw Patricia approach Emma's table. She spoke to Emma and her mother. Emma's face lit up with excitement. Her mother looked worried but nodding. Patricia gestured toward the dance floor. "Oh no," Gerald whispered beside Marcus. "They are not actually going to put her on the dance floor." But they were. Patricia was leading Emma toward the center of the ballroom, under the brightest lights, right where the cameras could capture everything. The orchestra continued playing. Couples danced around them, and Patricia stepped back, leaving Emma standing alone on the dance floor, her hand extended in invitation to the crowd, waiting for someone to dance with her. The seconds ticked by. 10, 20, 30. Marcus watched in growing horror as every single person on that dance floor found a reason to look away. They turned to their partners. They adjusted their jewelry. They suddenly needed to visit the bar or the restroom. Nobody even acknowledged Emma's presence. She stood there in her powder blue dress, her hand still extended, her smile starting to waver. "Somebody should do something," Senator Michaels muttered. "This is uncomfortable to watch." "Where is the event staff?" one of Vandermeer's partners asked. "This is poor planning." Thomas Vandermeer said nothing. He simply watched Marcus with those steel-gray eyes, and Marcus knew exactly what he was thinking. "This is a test. This is the moment we see what kind of man you really are." 40 seconds. Emma's smile was completely gone now. Her hand trembled as she slowly lowered it. Marcus could see her mother at table 17, her face buried in her hands. He could see Patricia standing frozen near the stage, her expression stricken with the realization that her beautiful gesture had turned into a public humiliation. He could see Emma's lips move. "I am sorry. I am so sorry." and Marcus felt something inside him tear completely apart. "Excuse me," he said, pushing back his chair. "Marcus," Gerald's hand shot out and gripped his arm. "Do not. Whatever you're thinking, do not. Think about the deal. Think about everything you have worked for. Let go of me," Marcus said quietly. "Marcus, please." Gerald's voice dropped to an urgent whisper. "Vandermeer is watching. Everyone is watching. If you go down there, if you make this about you, they will think you are grandstanding. They will think you are being political. You will lose everything." Marcus looked at Gerald's hand on his arm. Then he looked at Thomas Vandermeer, who sat with his fingers steepled, his expression neutral, but his eyes calculating. Then he looked at Emma, who had turned away from the dance floor and was walking back toward her table with her shoulders shaking. And Marcus Whitfield made the choice that would define the rest of his life. He pulled his arm free from Gerald's grip and stood. The movement drew eyes immediately. People at nearby tables turned to look. Thomas Vandermeer leaned forward. The cameras, sensing something happening, pivoted toward him. Marcus stepped away from the head table and walked toward the dance floor. Every step felt like walking through concrete. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. He was aware of every eye in the ballroom tracking his movement. He heard whispers rising like a tide. He saw Emma reach her table and her mother stand to embrace her. And then he was there. In the center of the dance floor, under the chandelier light and the camera lights and the weight of 3,000 judgments. "Emma," he said. His voice came out rough, almost broken. "Would you give me the honor of this dance?" The ballroom went completely silent. The orchestra faltered, the violins trailing off mid-note. Emma turned slowly, her face streaked with tears, her eyes wide with confusion and disbelief. "Me?" she whispered. "You," Marcus said and extended his hand. For one terrible moment he thought she would refuse. He thought she would look at him and see just another person from that world of people who had ignored her. Just another man in an expensive tuxedo who was probably doing this for show. But then Emma looked at his hand. She looked at his face, and whatever she saw there must have been enough, because she placed her hand in his. Her hand was small and warm and shaking. Marcus closed his fingers gently around it and led her back to the center of the dance floor. The orchestra, after a frozen moment, resumed the waltz, and Marcus Whitfield, who had not danced with anyone since his wedding 20 years ago, placed his other hand carefully on Emma's waist and began to move. She was not a good dancer. She stumbled over his feet. She could not quite follow the rhythm, but Marcus did not care. He held her gently and moved slowly, adjusting his steps to match hers, and after a few awkward moments they found a rhythm that worked. "I am sorry I'm not very good at this," Emma said quietly, her eyes downcast. "You are perfect," Marcus replied, and meant it. She looked up at him then, really looked at him, and her face broke into the most beautiful smile he had ever seen, pure and genuine, and absolutely radiant. And Marcus felt something he had not felt in 47 years. He felt clean. He felt light. He felt like maybe, just maybe, he was finally doing something real. Around them, the ballroom remained frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The cameras captured every second, broadcasting this moment live across South Carolina and beyond. Marcus was dimly aware of it, but he did not care anymore. All that mattered was the girl in his arms who had been brave enough to stand on that dance floor alone and who deserved better than what this room had given her. They danced for the entire song, 3 minutes that felt like 3 hours, and when the music finally ended, Marcus stepped back and bowed to Emma like she was a princess at a royal ball. She laughed, delighted, and curtsied back. The applause started slowly. One person, then two. Then suddenly the entire ballroom was on its feet, clapping and cheering, but Marcus barely heard it. He was looking at Emma's face, at the joy shining there, and thinking that he had spent his entire life chasing things that did not matter, while this simple act of kindness was the only thing that ever had. He walked Emma back to her table, where her mother stood with tears streaming down her face. She grabbed Marcus's hands and squeezed them so hard it hurt. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for seeing her." Marcus nodded, unable to speak, and turned to walk back to his table. But he knew before he got there that everything had changed. He could feel it in the air. He could see it in the faces that watched him pass. When he reached the head table, his seat was empty. Thomas Vandermeer and his partners were gone. Gerald stood alone, his face pale and stricken. "They left," Gerald said. "Vandermeer said to tell you that the Vandermeer Group does not do business with people who make impulsive emotional decisions. The deal is over, Marcus. It is over." Marcus looked at his empty chair. He looked at the place where Emma sat with her mother, still glowing with happiness. He looked at Gerald's devastated expression, and he smiled. "Good," he said. The video went viral within hours. By midnight, clips of Marcus dancing with Emma had been shared millions of times across every social media platform. By morning, news outlets from New York to Los Angeles were running the story. Charleston billionaire dances with Down syndrome woman after crowd ignores her. Powerful moment at charity gala goes viral. Marcus Whitfield loses $300 million deal to stand up for what is right. That last headline was courtesy of a reporter who had sources inside the Vandermeer Group. The business community reacted swiftly. Some praised Marcus for his humanity. Most questioned his judgment. The Wall Street Journal ran an editorial titled, "When Emotion Trumps Business, the Marcus Whitfield Gamble." The consensus was clear. He had made a catastrophic mistake. He had let sentiment destroy a deal 2 years in the making. He had proven himself unreliable. Marcus sat in his penthouse the morning after the gala, watching the sun rise over the harbor, and felt nothing but peace. His phone had been ringing constantly since he woke up. Caroline had forwarded 63 interview requests. Gerald had left 4 voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. The Whitfield Hotel Group Board had called an emergency meeting for Monday morning, and Marcus knew exactly what they were going to say, but none of it mattered. For the first time in his life, Marcus had made a choice based on what was right, instead of what was profitable, and he would not take it back even if he could. Victoria called at 8 o'clock. "I saw the video," she said, and he could hear her crying. "Marcus, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you I cannot even put it into words." "I lost the biggest deal of my career," he replied, but he was smiling. "You found something worth more than money. You found your soul." She paused. "How do you feel?" "Terrified," Marcus admitted. "And free. Is that possible?" "It is the only thing that is possible," Victoria said. "Welcome back, brother. I have missed you." They talked for an hour, the longest conversation they had had since childhood. Victoria told him about her life in Atlanta, about her husband who taught middle school and loved every difficult student. She told him about the work she did with a non-profit that helped families with special needs children, and she told him that if he wanted to do something meaningful with the second half of his life, she knew people who could help. "I do not know what meaningful looks like," Marcus confessed. "I only know what profitable looks like." "Then maybe it is time to learn," Victoria said gently. After they hung up, Marcus did something he had not done in decades. He opened the locked drawer in his study where he kept things from his childhood: photographs, report cards, letters from his mother, who died when he was 12 before his father could completely turn him into stone. He found a picture of himself at 8 years old, the age he was when his father hit him for crying. The little boy in the photograph had soft eyes and an open smile. He looked kind. Marcus stared at that photograph for a long time and made himself a promise. He would find that little boy again, no matter how long it took, no matter what it cost. The board meeting on Monday was exactly as brutal as he expected. 12 men and 2 women sat around the conference table in the Whitfield building and took turns explaining why his actions at the gala had damaged the company's reputation and cost them hundreds of millions in potential revenue. "You embarrassed us," said Richard Pemberton, the longest-serving board member and a close friend of Marcus's father. "You made the Whitfield name synonymous with impulsive emotionalism. Do you have any idea how hard it will be to attract serious investors after this?" "I danced with a girl who was being ignored at a charity gala," Marcus said calmly. "If that embarrasses you, Richard, then I suggest you examine your values. Your personal values are not the issue here. The issue is the fiduciary responsibility you have to this company and its shareholders. You allowed your emotions to override your business judgment, and now we are all paying the price." "No," Marcus said, standing. "I stopped allowing other people's fear to dictate my choices. There is a difference." He looked around the table at faces he had known for decades, people his father had mentored, people who had taught him that money was the only measure of success. "I am resigning from the board, effective immediately. I will retain my shares, but I will no longer participate in the day-to-day management of this company." The room erupted in shocked protests. Marcus let them talk, let them argue, let them try to convince him he was making another mistake. And when they were done, he simply walked out. Gerald caught up with him in the parking garage. "Marcus, please, think about what you are doing. This company is your legacy. It is everything your grandfather and your father built." "No, Gerald. This company is everything my grandfather and father built on top of who they really were. My grandfather founded the Magnolia Foundation, because he believed in compassion. My father forgot that, and I have spent my entire life forgetting it too. Marcus unlocked his car. I am done living for dead men's dreams. It is time I figure out what I actually believe in. And what is that? Gerald asked desperately. Marcus thought about Emma's face when he asked her to dance, the way she looked at him like he had given her something infinitely precious, not because he was rich, not because he was powerful, but because he saw her when everyone else looked away. I believe in seeing people, Marcus said quietly. That is all. Just seeing them. He drove away, leaving Gerald standing alone in the garage, and felt lighter than he had in decades. The next 3 months were the strangest and most difficult of Marcus's life. He did not know who he was without the company. He did not know how to fill his days without meetings and deals and strategic planning. He was 47 years old, and he had to learn how to be a person instead of a corporation. Victoria came to visit in October. She stayed for a week, and together they walked through Charleston, talking about everything and nothing. She introduced him to her friends who worked in non-profits and advocacy organizations, people who dedicated their lives to helping others without any expectation of profit or recognition. Marcus listened to their stories and felt humbled by how much he did not know about the world. You are relearning how to be human, Victoria told him one evening as they sat on his balcony watching the sunset. It is hard. You have been performing a role for so long that you forgot there was a real person underneath. But he is still there, Marcus. That 8-year-old boy who cried because someone was being treated badly, he never left. You just buried him. What if I cannot find him? Marcus asked. What if I buried him too deep? You already found him, Victoria said. He is the one who asked Emma to dance. In November, Marcus did something that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. He called Patricia Holbrook and asked if he could volunteer at the children's hospital. Patricia, after recovering from her shock, set up a meeting with the volunteer coordinator. Marcus expected to be given some administrative role, some behind-the-scenes position, where his name and his money would be more useful than his presence. Instead, they asked him to read to the children on Saturday mornings. His first Saturday, Marcus arrived at the hospital at 9 o'clock, terrified. He had no idea how to talk to sick children. He had no experience with kids at all. He was convinced he would say something wrong, do something wrong, be the same cold person he had always been. But the volunteer coordinator, a woman named Sarah with kind eyes and infinite patience, led him to the pediatric wing and introduced him to a 6-year-old boy named Tyler who was recovering from heart surgery. Tyler loves stories about dragons, Sarah said. I will leave you two alone. Just read and be present. That is all you need to do. Marcus sat in the chair beside Tyler's bed, opened the picture book Sarah had given him, and began to read. His voice was stiff at first, mechanical. But Tyler watched him with such intense focus, such complete investment in the story, that Marcus found himself relaxing. He started doing different voices for the characters. He made Tyler laugh. And when the story ended and Tyler asked him to read it again, Marcus did, and realized he was enjoying himself. Will you come back next week? Tyler asked as Marcus stood to leave. I will, Marcus promised, and he meant it. He went back every Saturday for the next 3 months. He read to Tyler and to a dozen other children. He learned their names, their stories, their fears and hopes. He sat with parents who were exhausted from watching their children suffer. He did nothing special. He just showed up. He just saw them. And on his 4th Saturday, he arrived at the hospital and found Emma in the hallway carrying a stack of board games. They stopped and stared at each other. Emma's face lit up with recognition and joy. You are the man who danced with me. I am, Marcus said, his throat suddenly tight. And you are Emma. I come here every Saturday, she said proudly. I am a volunteer. I play games with the kids. I know, Marcus said. You are famous here. Everyone talks about how wonderful you are. Emma blushed and smiled. I just like making them happy. They are sad a lot. Being sick is hard. It is, Marcus agreed. That is why what you do matters so much. They stood there in the hallway, 2 people who had changed each other's lives in ways neither fully understood yet. Emma tilted her head, studying him with that directness that people with Down syndrome often have, the inability to hide behind social masks. You look different, she said finally. Not scary anymore. You look nice. Marcus felt his eyes burn. Thank you, Emma. That is the kindest thing anyone has ever said to me. Do you want to come play games with us? Emma asked. I am going to visit Tyler. He is my friend. He is my friend too, Marcus said. I read to him every week. Emma's face brightened even more. Then you should come. We can both visit him. He will be so happy. So Marcus followed Emma down the hallway, carrying her stack of board games, and spent the next 2 hours playing Candyland and Connect 4 with sick children. Emma sat beside him, her presence as natural and easy as breathing, and Marcus realized something profound. He had spent 47 years trying to be someone important, but importance was nothing compared to this, to sitting on a hospital floor playing games with kids who needed someone to care, to making Emma laugh, to being seen not as Marcus Whitfield the billionaire, but as Marcus the volunteer who showed up on Saturdays. This was what it meant to be human. This was what his grandfather had tried to teach the world through the Magnolia Foundation. This was what his father had tried to destroy in him, and what Marcus had finally found again. When they walked out of the hospital together that afternoon, Emma turned to him and said, "Will you be here next week?" "I will," Marcus promised. "I will be here every week." "Good," Emma said and hugged him without warning or hesitation. Just threw her arms around him and held on tight. And Marcus Whitfield, who had not been hugged in years, who had forgotten what unconditional affection felt like, wrapped his arms around this beautiful soul who had saved him without even knowing she needed to, and let himself cry. By January, Marcus's life had become unrecognizable. He no longer woke at 5:15 to stare at his grandfather's portrait. He no longer spent 12 hours a day in meetings about profit margins and market share. He no longer measured his worth in dollars or the size of his empire. Instead, he woke when the light felt right. He had breakfast with people he was learning to call friends. He volunteered at the hospital every Saturday and had added Tuesdays to his schedule. He was learning sign language because one of the children, a little girl named Sophie, was deaf. He was reading books about disability advocacy and inclusive communities. He was slowly and painfully learning how to be the man he should have been all along. The Charleston business community did not know what to make of him. Some thought he had had a breakdown. Others whispered that he was having a midlife crisis. A few understood that something deeper had happened, though they could not articulate what. Marcus did not care about their opinions anymore. He had spent his entire life caring what Charleston society thought, and where had it gotten him? Alone in a penthouse, rich and miserable, with nothing real to hold on to. Victoria visited again in February and brought her husband, David, a middle school English teacher with a warm smile and an infectious laugh. Over dinner, David told stories about his students, the difficult kids that everyone else had given up on, and how sometimes all they needed was one person who believed in them. "That is what you did for Emma," David said. "You believed in her humanity when everyone else in that room was content to ignore it. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how much courage that took?" "It did not feel like courage," Marcus admitted. "It felt like the only possible choice. Like if I did not do it, I would lose something essential." "You would have," David said quietly. "You would have lost yourself." They talked late into the night about education, about inequality, about the systems that failed vulnerable people. Marcus listened and learned and began to understand how much privilege he had taken for granted, how easy it was to ignore suffering when you were insulated by wealth, how much courage it took to see injustice and choose to act, even when acting cost you everything. "I want to do more," Marcus said as the evening wound down. "I want to use my resources for something meaningful, but I do not know where to start." Victoria and David exchanged a look. "We know people," Victoria said. "People who run organizations that need funding and support. People who are doing the real work of making communities more inclusive and compassionate. We could introduce you if you are serious." "I am serious," Marcus said. "I have never been more serious about anything in my life." Over the next 3 months, Marcus met with dozens of non-profit leaders, disability advocates, and community organizers. He listened to their challenges and their dreams. He learned about the barriers that people with disabilities faced every day, the lack of job opportunities, the social isolation, the assumption by much of society that their lives had less value, and he decided to do something about it. In May, Marcus established the Emma Rodriguez Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to creating employment opportunities and social inclusion programs for people with developmental disabilities. He seeded it with $50 million from his personal fortune, and he recruited Victoria to serve as executive director. Together, they built something that would have made Theodore Whitfield proud and made Jonathan Whitfield spin in his grave. The foundation's first major initiative was a partnership with the Whitfield Hotel Group. Over Gerald Chen's strenuous objections, Marcus negotiated a program that would train and employ people with disabilities in meaningful positions across all Whitfield properties. Not charity positions, not token gestures, real jobs with real responsibilities and real pay. "You are going to damage the brand," Gerald warned during one particularly heated board meeting. "Luxury hotels require perfect service, perfect appearance. Clients expect a certain standard." "And what standard is that, Gerald?" Marcus asked coldly. "A standard that excludes people who do not look or sound like you think they should. A standard based on fear and prejudice disguised as excellence. That is not fair." "No, what is not fair is that we have been telling people like Emma that they do not belong in our world, that they are not good enough, that they are something to be hidden away rather than celebrated." Marcus stood, his voice rising with a passion he had never allowed himself before. "I am done with that. I am done building an empire on the idea that some people matter more than others. Either we change, or I sell my shares, and you can explain to the press why the Whitfield Hotel Group chose discrimination over humanity." The threat worked. The program launched in June. 23 people with disabilities were hired across 8 properties. Some worked in housekeeping, others in food service, a few in front desk operations. Each one was paired with a mentor. Each one received full benefits and fair wages, and each one proved day after day that Gerald's fears were baseless, that people with disabilities could absolutely meet the standards of excellence that luxury hospitality required. Emma was one of the first hires. She worked in the Charleston Grand's concierge office, helping coordinate volunteer programs and community partnerships. She was extraordinary at it. Her genuine kindness, her ability to connect with people, her joy in helping others made her perfect for the role. Guests loved her, staff loved her, and Marcus, watching her thrive in an environment that would have rejected her a year ago, felt something he had not felt in decades. He felt proud, not proud of himself, proud of the world they were building together, a world where Emma's value was obvious, not invisible. The media coverage was intense. Some praised the Emma Rodriguez Foundation as groundbreaking. Others criticized it as performative, a rich man buying redemption after a career of cold capitalism. Marcus did not engage with either narrative. He just kept working. He just kept showing up. He just kept trying to be better than he was yesterday. In August, Patricia Holbrook called with an unusual request. The Magnolia Foundation wanted to honor Marcus at the next gala. He was, Patricia said, the perfect example of transformation and compassion that the foundation stood for. Marcus's immediate instinct was to refuse. He did not want awards. He did not want recognition. He wanted to disappear into the work and let the work speak for itself. But Victoria convinced him otherwise. "People need to see transformation," she argued. "People need to know that change is possible, that you can spend 47 years being one kind of person and still become someone better. If you accept this award, you give hope to every person who thinks it is too late for them to change." So Marcus agreed, with one condition. Emma would present the award. Not Patricia, not the mayor, Emma, because she was the one who had saved him, and she deserved to be the one who named what he had become. The 59th Annual Magnolia Foundation Gala took place on a September evening, exactly 1 year after the night that changed everything. Marcus arrived alone, wearing the same midnight blue tuxedo, and felt like he was walking into a memory. The same ballroom, the same chandeliers, the same crowd of Charleston elite dressed in designer clothes and social ambition, but everything was different, because Marcus was different. He sat at a table with Emma and her mother, with Victoria and David, with the volunteers from the Children's Hospital. He sat with the people who mattered, far away from the head table and the power players and the world he used to inhabit. And when Patricia called him to the stage to receive the Theodore Whitfield Humanitarian Award, Emma walked with him, her hand in his, both of them beaming. Emma took the microphone first. She had practiced her speech for weeks, and her mother had helped her memorize it. Her voice was stronger now than it had been a year ago, more confident. She looked out at the crowd of 3,000 people and smiled. "Last year, I stood on that dance floor," she said, pointing to the marble expanse below, "and nobody wanted to dance with me. I felt invisible. I felt like I did not matter. But then Marcus danced with me, and everything changed. Not just for me, for him too. He saw me when nobody else did. And because he saw me, now lots of people see me. I have a real job, I have friends, I have a life that matters. And Marcus has that too. He has a life that matters because he chose to be kind. That is all. He just chose to be kind. And kind people change the world." The applause was deafening. Marcus stood beside Emma, tears streaming down his face, unable to speak. Patricia handed Emma the Crystal Award, and Emma turned and presented it to Marcus with both hands, like she was giving him something sacred. "Thank you for seeing me," she whispered. "Thank you for teaching me how to see," Marcus whispered back. They stood there on the stage, under the chandelier lights and the camera lights, and Marcus thought about his father, about the man who had tried to turn him into stone, about the lessons that had almost destroyed him. And he thought about his grandfather, whose portrait still hung in his penthouse, and wondered if Theodore was finally proud. If Theodore looked down at this moment and thought, yes, this is what I meant. This is what the foundation was always supposed to be about. Not money, not status, not maintaining social hierarchies, but seeing the humanity in every person and choosing to honor it. After the ceremony, after the speeches and the dancing and the celebration, Marcus stood on the same balcony where he had stood a year ago, watching Thomas Vandermeer walk away with $300 million. Gerald appeared beside him, older and grayer than he had been a year ago, worn down by the stress of managing a company whose founder had found religion. "I owe you an apology," Gerald said quietly. "I thought you were making a terrible mistake. I thought you were throwing away everything that mattered." "I was throwing away everything that did not matter," Marcus corrected gently. "There is a difference." "I see that now." Gerald looked out at the harbor. "The occupancy rates are up. Guest satisfaction is at an all-time high. The program with the foundation is actually improving our brand, not damaging it. You were right, and I was wrong. You were afraid," Marcus said. "I understand fear. I lived in fear for 47 years. "What changed?" Gerald asked. "What made you finally brave enough to risk everything?" Marcus thought about that question. He thought about Emma standing alone on that dance floor. He thought about the little boy he used to be, crying in a car because he knew cruelty when he saw it. He thought about Victoria's voice on the phone, telling him it was never too late to wake up. "I looked at my life," he said finally, "and I realized I was not living it. I was performing it, playing a role someone else wrote for me, and I was so tired of pretending, so tired of being empty." He turned to Gerald. "Emma did not change me. She just reminded me who I was before I learned to be afraid, before I learned that love is weakness and compassion is liability. She reminded me that the strongest thing a person can do is care about someone else without expecting anything in return." Gerald nodded slowly. "I think I am just beginning to understand that." "It took me 47 years, Marcus said with a smile. "You are ahead of schedule." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights reflect on the dark water, and Marcus felt something he had never felt before. He felt complete, not successful, not powerful, not important, just complete, just himself, just enough. 2 years after the dance that changed his life, Marcus Whitfield sat in a small conference room in the Emma Rodriguez Foundation headquarters, reviewing applications for the scholarship program they had just launched. 50 scholarships for young people with developmental disabilities who wanted to pursue higher education. 50 chances to prove that intelligence and worth were not measured by how closely you conformed to society's narrow definition of normal. The foundation had grown beyond anything Marcus had imagined. They now operated in 8 states. They had created over 300 jobs. They had trained more than 1,000 employers in inclusive hiring practices. They had proven over and over that people with disabilities were not charity cases to be pitied, but valuable community members to be celebrated. And Marcus had found his purpose, not in building hotels or acquiring properties or winning deals, but in building a world where Emma and people like her were seen and valued and given the opportunities they deserved, where kindness was not seen as weakness, but as the foundation of everything worthwhile. His phone rang. "Victoria, turn on Channel 7, she said. "You need to see this." Marcus found the remote and switched on the television mounted in the corner. A news broadcast. A reporter standing in front of the Whitfield Grand Charleston. And the headline, "Former business titan named one of Time magazine's most influential people for disability advocacy." Marcus watched, stunned, as the reporter described his transformation from ruthless businessman to passionate advocate. They showed clips from that first dance with Emma. They interviewed employees with disabilities who worked at Whitfield Properties. They talked about the foundation's impact and the ripple effect it was having across the hospitality industry and beyond. "Marcus Whitfield proves that it is never too late to become who you were meant to be," the reporter concluded. "In a world that often measures success by wealth and power, Whitfield has redefined success as the courage to see others and the grace to let yourself be changed by them. The segment ended. Marcus sat in silence, the remote dangling from his hand. Victoria spoke softly in his ear. "Are you okay?" "I am thinking about Father," Marcus said. "About what he would say if he could see this. He would say you destroyed everything he built." "Good," Marcus smiled, "because I built something better, something real, something that will matter long after the hotels are gone and the money is spent and my name is forgotten. I built relationships. I built community. I built a life worth living." "You did more than that, Marcus. You gave Emma a voice. You gave her a platform. You gave her dignity. And you showed the world that the true measure of a man is not what he achieves for himself, but what he creates for others." They talked for a few more minutes, and then Marcus returned to the scholarship applications. Each one was a story. Each one was a person society had underestimated. Each one was a chance to prove that, given opportunity, people with disabilities could do extraordinary things. He worked until evening, and then walked the 8 blocks to the Charleston Children's Hospital for his Saturday volunteer shift. It was his favorite part of the week. The children did not care that he had been featured on the news. They did not care that Time magazine had called him influential. They just cared that he showed up, that he read stories in funny voices, that he remembered their names and their fears and their dreams. Emma was already there when he arrived, setting up a craft station in the playroom. She had grown so much in 2 years, more confident, more independent, more herself. She looked up when Marcus entered, and her face broke into that luminous smile that still had the power to undo him completely. "Marcus, you are here!" "I'm always here on Saturdays," he said, hugging her. "Did you think I would miss it?" "No, you never miss Saturdays. You are reliable." She said the word carefully, proud of herself for using it correctly. "Reliable means you do what you say you will do. You are reliable too," Marcus said. "You have been volunteering here for 7 years now. That is remarkable, Emma." "I love it," she said simply. "It makes me happy to make them happy." And there it was, the philosophy that had transformed Marcus's entire life, expressed in one perfect sentence. It makes me happy to make them happy. Not complicated, not strategic, not calculating, just pure, uncomplicated love. They spent the afternoon with the children. Marcus read stories. Emma helped kids make cards for their parents. Together, they brought laughter and lightness to a place that held so much fear and pain. And when the shift ended and they walked out together into the Charleston evening, Emma turned to Marcus with a serious expression. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "That night at the gala, when you danced with me, why did you do it?" Marcus stopped walking. They were on a quiet street corner, the old historic homes of Charleston rising around them, the air heavy with the scent of magnolia blossoms. He looked at Emma, at this extraordinary person who had saved his life without ever knowing she needed to, and tried to find the words. "I did it because I was drowning," he said finally. "I had built this whole life that looked successful from the outside, but inside I was completely empty. I did not know how to feel anything real anymore. I did not know how to love or be loved. I had forgotten what it meant to be human." He paused, his voice thick. "And then I saw you standing there, so brave and so vulnerable, and everyone ignoring you. And I knew that if I walked away, if I let that moment pass without doing something, I would never forgive myself. I would never be able to look in the mirror again. So I made a choice, not to save you, but to save myself." Emma listened with that intense focus she brought to everything, processing his words carefully. "So I saved you." "You saved me," Marcus confirmed, "completely and utterly. You showed me what it means to live with an open heart, to show up and care and give without expecting anything back. You reminded me that I used to be kind before life taught me to be afraid, and you gave me permission to be kind again." "I am glad I saved you," Emma said, and then she laughed. "That is funny. Usually people think they need to save me, but I saved you instead." "You did," Marcus said, and realized he was crying. "You absolutely did." Emma hugged him right there on the street corner under the magnolia trees, and Marcus held her and thought about the strange mathematics of grace. How sometimes the people the world considers weak are actually the strongest. How sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what matters. How sometimes one moment of courage can redirect an entire life. They walked the rest of the way to Emma's apartment building, where her mother waited on the porch. Maria Rodriguez, who had become like family to Marcus over the past 2 years, waved and called out a greeting. Marcus waved back, feeling the warmth of belonging, of being part of something real and true and good. As he drove home through the Charleston twilight, Marcus thought about the man he used to be. The man who woke at 5:15 to stare at his grandfather's portrait. The man who measured his worth in dollars and square footage and social status. The man who was so afraid of being vulnerable that he had armored himself against the entire world. That man was gone. Marcus had dismantled him piece by piece over the past 2 years and built someone new in his place. Someone who showed up. Someone who cared. Someone who understood that the greatest achievement is not building an empire, but building a life of meaning, a life of connection, a life of love. His penthouse felt different now. He had donated most of the expensive furniture to charity and replaced it with comfortable pieces that invited people to sit and stay. The walls that once held corporate art now displayed photographs from the foundation's events. Emma smiling with her co-workers. Children at the hospital holding the books Marcus had read to them. Victoria and David at the scholarship ceremony. His life, captured in moments of genuine joy. The painting of Theodore Whitfield still hung in his bedroom, but Marcus had moved it to a different wall. Now when he woke in the morning, the first thing he saw was not his grandfather's judging eyes, but the window looking out over the harbor, the light, the water, the infinite possibility of each new day. He poured himself a glass of wine and stepped onto his balcony. The city spread out below him, alive with light and movement. Charleston, the city that had shaped him and broken him and ultimately saved him. He thought about all the people down there, living their lives, struggling with their own versions of the choice he had faced. The choice between safety and courage, between performance and authenticity, between the person they thought they should be and the person they actually were. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. He opened it expecting spam and found instead a message that made his breath catch. Mr. Whitfield, this is Thomas Vandermeer. I saw the Time magazine article. I wanted you to know that I was wrong about you 2 years ago. What you have built with the Emma Rodriguez Foundation is remarkable, more valuable than any hotel deal. You chose principle over profit, and the world is better for it. I hope you can forgive my short-sightedness. Sincerely, Thomas. Marcus read the message 3 times. He thought about responding. He thought about calling Thomas and talking about second chances and transformation. He thought about all the things he could say. Instead, he simply typed, "Thank you. I forgive you. More importantly, I forgive myself." He sent the message and set his phone aside. Forgiveness. That was what all of this had really been about. Not just forgiving the world for its cruelty, not just forgiving his father for his coldness, but forgiving himself for all the years he had spent being someone he was not, for all the moments he had looked away from suffering because acknowledging it would have required him to change, for all the times he had chosen comfort over courage. Emma had taught him that. Emma, who forgave instantly and completely, who held no grudges, who approached each day with fresh hope and open hands. Emma, who the world had underestimated, and who had proven that intelligence comes in many forms, and the highest form might just be the ability to love without condition. The wine in his glass caught the light from the city, turning gold and amber. Marcus raised it in a silent toast, to Emma, to Victoria, to every person who had helped him find his way back to himself, to the little boy who cried in a car 40 years ago because he knew cruelty when he saw it. That little boy had survived after all. He had just been waiting for Marcus to be brave enough to let him out. A year later, Marcus did something he had never imagined he would do. He sold his remaining shares in the Whitfield Hotel Group. All of them. Every single one. He walked away from the family business completely, taking with him only the programs that ensured people with disabilities would continue to have opportunities long after he was gone. The sale netted him $600 million. He donated half to the Emma Rodriguez Foundation, establishing an endowment that would fund its work in perpetuity. The other half, he divided among organizations doing similar work across the country. Disability rights, inclusive education, employment programs, community integration. The money that once represented his father's approval now represented his own values, his own choices, his own soul. Gerald Chen called when the news broke. "I cannot believe you did it. I cannot believe you actually walked away." "I did not walk away," Marcus corrected. "I walked towards something better. There is a difference." "What will you do now?" Marcus smiled. "I am going back to school, social work. I want to learn how to do this right, how to be actually useful instead of just well-intentioned." Gerald was silent for a long moment. "Your father would be horrified." "My father was wrong about almost everything. Marcus said gently. "And I spent too many years letting his ghost dictate my choices. I am done with ghosts, Gerald. I am living for the people who are still here, the people who need me to be brave enough to see them." At 50 years old, Marcus Whitfield became a graduate student at the College of Charleston, sitting in classrooms with people half his age, learning about trauma-informed care and social justice and the systems that marginalized vulnerable populations. His classmates were intimidated by him at first, the famous Marcus Whitfield, the man from the viral video, the philanthropist who had given away a fortune. But Marcus worked hard to be just another student, just another person trying to learn how to make the world a little better. He made study groups. He volunteered for group projects. He asked questions and listened to answers, and slowly, over months, his classmates forgot to be intimidated and just saw him as Marcus, which was all he had ever wanted, to be seen as himself, not as his name or his money or his past, just as a person trying to do better. Emma came to his graduation 3 years later. So did Victoria and David. So did the children from the hospital who were well enough to attend. So did dozens of employees with disabilities from the Foundation's programs. They filled the stands, cheering and waving signs, and when Marcus walked across the stage to receive his Master of Social Work degree, the applause was deafening. He stood there with his diploma, a man of 53 who had finally figured out what he wanted to be when he grew up, and felt a joy so pure it was almost painful. This was success. Not the hotels, not the deals, not the empire, but this moment surrounded by people he loved and who loved him back, celebrating not what he had accomplished, but who he had become. After the ceremony, Emma ran up to him and threw her arms around his waist. "I am so proud of you." "I am proud of you too," Marcus said, hugging her back. Emma had just finished her own certification program to become a peer support specialist, helping other people with disabilities navigate systems and find their voices. She was extraordinary at it. Natural and compassionate and fearless in the face of bureaucracy. "We make a good team," Emma said, beaming up at him. "The best team," Marcus agreed. That evening, the Foundation hosted a celebration at the Whitfield Grand Charleston, the hotel where everything had changed 5 years ago. The ballroom was decorated again, though this time the guest list was very different. People with disabilities and their families, non-profit workers and advocates, teachers and social workers. The people who did the real work of building inclusive communities, finally invited to sit at the tables that had once been reserved for Charleston's elite. Marcus stood at the edge of the ballroom, watching people dance. Real dancing this time. Joyful and messy and completely unself-conscious. Emma was in the middle of it all, spinning and laughing with her friends from work. Her mother danced nearby, tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed by how far her daughter had come. How far they all had come. Victoria appeared at Marcus's elbow. "You did it, brother. You actually changed the world." "I did not change the world," Marcus said. "I just changed myself. The world followed because I finally gave it permission to see what was always there." "Do you regret it? Walking away from the company, losing the deal with Vandermeer, everything you gave up?" Marcus thought about the question. He thought about the man he used to be, the empty penthouse, the hollow victories, the life of performance and pretense. He thought about the 47 years he spent chasing things that did not matter. "I do not regret a single moment," he said, "because every moment led me here, to this, to her." He nodded toward Emma, who had noticed them watching and was waving enthusiastically. "I spent most of my life believing I was building something important, but I was just building walls. Emma taught me how to tear them down, how to let people in, how to be vulnerable and brave and real. I did not lose anything, Victoria. I gained everything." They stood together, brother and sister, watching the celebration unfold. And Marcus thought about the strange trajectory of grace, how it often comes from the most unexpected places, how it often looks like failure before it reveals itself as salvation, how sometimes you have to lose everything you thought you wanted in order to find what you actually need. As the evening wore on, the DJ put on a slow song. Couples moved to the dance floor. Emma appeared beside Marcus, her hand extended, her eyes bright with mischief. "Will you dance with me again?" she asked. "Always," Marcus said, taking her hand. They moved to the center of the floor, to the exact spot where they had danced 5 years ago, the spot where Marcus Whitfield had made the choice that saved his life. And as they swayed to the music, Marcus looked around at the faces watching them. Faces full of love and acceptance and hope. Faces that saw Emma and saw value. Faces that saw him and saw not a billionaire or a philanthropist or a reformed businessman, but simply a person. A flawed, struggling, beautiful person trying his best to live with an open heart. "Thank you," he whispered to Emma. "For what?" "For teaching me how to be human." Emma smiled that luminous smile that had changed everything. "You taught me something too." "What did I teach you?" "That I matter. That my life is important. That I deserve to be seen." She squeezed his hand. "You taught me that I am enough, Marcus. Just by being myself, I am enough." And Marcus, standing in the ballroom where he had almost made the biggest mistake of his life, holding the hand of the person who had saved him from himself, felt a peace so profound it seemed to radiate from his bones. She was enough. He was enough. They were all enough. That was the lesson. The only lesson that mattered. Not success or power or achievement or status. Just the simple, radical truth that every person has intrinsic worth. That every life matters. That the measure of a society is how it treats its most vulnerable members, and the measure of a life is how much love you give and receive. Marcus had spent 53 years learning that lesson, and he would spend whatever time he had left living it. The song ended. Emma curtsied. Marcus bowed, and the ballroom erupted in applause, celebrating not just a dance but a transformation, a redemption, a testament to the truth that it is never too late to become who you were meant to be. Later that night, Marcus stood on his balcony one last time, looking out at the city he loved, Charleston, the place where he had been born and raised and broken and remade. He thought about his father, cold in the ground for a decade now, and wondered if Jonathan Whitfield had ever experienced a moment like this. A moment of absolute clarity, a moment where the walls came down and the truth shone through, and you understood, finally, what it all meant. He thought about his grandfather, Theodore, who had tried to build something good in a world that often rewarded cruelty, who had founded the Magnolia Foundation because he believed compassion mattered, who had looked at vulnerable people and seen not weakness but humanity. "I understand now, grandfather," Marcus said to the night air. "I understand what you were trying to tell us. That greatness is not measured in dollars or buildings or power. It is measured in how we treat each other, how we see each other, how we love each other." The city lights reflected on the harbor, turning the water into liquid gold. Marcus raised his glass one final time, toasting the grandfather he had finally made proud, the father he had finally forgiven, the sister who had never given up on him, and the extraordinary young woman who had saved his life by simply being herself. "To Emma," he whispered, "to courage, to love, to becoming human." He drank the wine, set the glass aside, and went to bed with a light heart and a clear conscience, knowing that tomorrow he would wake up and do it all again. Show up, care, see people, build a world where everyone, regardless of ability or appearance or the accidents of birth, was valued and celebrated and given the chance to shine. It was not the empire his father had wanted him to build, but it was the life his soul had always needed to live. And in a world obsessed with success, Marcus Whitfield had finally learned that the greatest achievement is not climbing higher than everyone else. It is reaching down to lift others up. It is dancing with the girl everyone ignored. It is seeing the humanity in every person and letting yourself be changed by what you see. That was the measure of a life. That was the definition of greatness. That was the truth that Emma Rodriguez, a young woman with Down syndrome, had taught a billionaire too proud to admit he needed teaching. Some lessons come from books, some from experience, but the most important lessons come from the people we almost overlook, the people we are tempted to ignore, the people who society tells us do not matter. Those are the people who save us, if we are brave enough to let them. Marcus Whitfield had been brave enough, and it had made all the difference. In Charleston, South Carolina, there is a foundation that employs hundreds of people with disabilities. There is a ballroom where every year a gala celebrates not wealth or power, but kindness and inclusion. There is a man who volunteers at a children's hospital every Saturday, reading stories in funny voices and remembering names and showing up with the consistency that love requires. And there is a young woman with Down syndrome who changed the world simply by being herself, by showing up, by extending her hand and waiting with impossible courage for someone to take it. This is their story, but it is also our story, because we all stand at that crossroads eventually. We all face that moment where we can choose to look away or step forward, where we can choose safety or courage, where we can choose to be who we have always been or become who we were always meant to be. The question is not whether that moment will come. The question is what we will do when it arrives. Marcus Whitfield chose to dance, and in choosing to dance, he chose to live. May we all be so brave.